Sets the table nicely for James Baker, who served as Secretary of State under President George H.W. Bush and Chief of Staff to President Ronald Reagan and President Bush, I might add. He's with us along with NBC News special correspondent Tom Brokaw. Secretary Brokaw, thank you very much. Good to see you both.
Secretary Baker, let me start with you.
Yeah.
Later this afternoon, we're going to find out if President Trump is going to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord. During his inaugural address, he said he would make no decisions that didn't put America first and wouldn't be what's best for America before what's best for others. Is pulling us out of that climate accord best for America?
Well, I hope he doesn't pull us out of it. On the other hand, I think it's important that we have something that we can point to that would fulfill our obligations under the accord rather than just walking away from it. And I have proposed to the White House a carbon dividends proposal where we would impose a carbon tax but rebate it all to the American people so it doesn't grow government. It's conservative, free market, limited government, and internationally competitive. That would put us in compliance with that accord.
Tom, Mitt Romney tweeted yesterday, he said, affirmation of the Paris Agreement is not only about climate, it's about America remaining a global leader. Do you think we have to stay in to change the future of the world?
Well, I feel very strongly about the reality of global climate change, and I think that we have to acknowledge that. Jim also has an idea which I think has real merit, which is not just have the White House make the decision, but we talked earlier this morning about pumping it over to the Senate. This is a treaty, and maybe we ought to have ratification and have a national debate of some kind.
I think President Obama didn't submit it to the Senate because he was afraid he wouldn't get approval, so he called it an executive agreement. Why not submit it to the Senate? If the Senate ratifies it as a treaty, then we know the American people are behind it. And see what happens. I'm not sure it would get through the Senate.
Oh, interesting, because of course the Senate is controlled by Republicans. I got to ask you about another big topic we just talked about, James Comey, the fired FBI director set to testify perhaps as early as next week. If you had been in the White House, I mean, Comey has his detractors on all sides, but would you have advised the president to fire the FBI director in these circumstances, or did he make the situation worse for himself?
I don't know the answer to that because I don't know everything that was going on at the time, but I will say this. I think Director Comey made a huge mistake back in July when he stepped in and held that press conference saying, we've seen a lot of bad activity here on the part of Hillary Clinton, but nothing that would result in her being charged. He usurped unto himself the prosecutorial discretion that should rest in the Justice Department. You can say Loretta Lynch was disqualified because she met with Bill Clinton on her airplane, but there was a deputy attorney general who should have made that decision. The FBI is an investigative agency.
If it was a fireable offense, should Trump have done it on day one?
Well, I don't know everything that happened, but the president has absolute power to fire the FBI director anytime he wants to.
You are often seen as the gold standard when it comes to White House chiefs of staff, serving in that position twice. When you look at what's going on in the White House right now and assess the dynamic, who's running the show? Is it the right person? And are there too many competing interests?
Well, I said back on February 9th to Politico, I did an interview, I said, the one thing that worries me about the way they're set up is that there are 5 or 6 competing power centers with broad overlapping authority and maybe responsibility, and that's not a good recipe because that's contributed to all the fighting that's going on in there. He needs to empower one person, make sure everybody understands that's the guy or that's the lady, and give them the authority to run the White House and make it a strong chief of staff. He needs that. They badly need also message discipline in that White House. You can't run something as big as the government unless everybody's singing from the same hymn.
Well, it was a lot tougher to cover them than it is to cover this White House, by the way, because there are so many competing duties is in effect in this White House. Everybody wants to get their message out. That's why you see this stuff coming out 24/7. When Jim Baker was chief of staff for Ronald Reagan, it was a tightly run ship, and you dealt with a single or a couple of people in key positions, and he was always very straight with us. He didn't give up anything he didn't want to. Sometimes I was pushing him pretty hard at that point, but he wouldn't give it up. But in this White House, it's not just about the public image of it, but the chaos behind the scenes I've never seen before in any White House.
A lot of the power struggle playing out publicly. Secretary Baker, thank you for being with us. Nice to see you, and Tom, to you as well. Appreciate it.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.